September 12, 1958. 11:47 p.m. Big Sam's hand was shaking. $50,000. That was the price the five families put on Bumpy Johnson's head, and Sam, Bumpy's bodyguard for 5 years. The man Bumpy called brother had taken the contract. The plan was simple. Walk into Lenox Lounge, wait until Bumpy was distracted, one shot to the back of the head, disappear into the night. Sam walked in. Bumpy was at his table, back turned, vulnerable. Sam drew his weapon, aimed at the back of Bumpy's head, and pulled the trigger. Nothing. The room went silent. Bumpy turned around slowly, looked Sam dead in the eyes, and said 5 words that would become legend. "I've been counting on you." What nobody knew, what history books won't tell you, is that Bumpy Johnson had known about the hit for 3 weeks, and what he did in those 3 weeks didn't just save his life, it changed the rules of power in Harlem forever. To understand what happened that night, you need to understand who Bumpy Johnson was in 1958. He wasn't just another gangster. He was Harlem's protector, the man who stood between his community and the wolves that wanted to devour it. By the late 50s, Harlem was under siege. The Italian mob had been trying to take over the neighborhood's numbers racket for years. Numbers was big money. Poor folks betting nickels and dimes that added up to millions, and the Italians wanted every penny. But there was a problem. His name was Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy had built something the Italians couldn't understand. He didn't rule through fear alone. He ruled through respect. When Harlem families couldn't pay rent, Bumpy paid it. When police harassed black businesses, Bumpy made phone calls that made the harassment stop. When Italian mobsters tried to muscle in, Bumpy pushed back hard. The 5 families had tried everything. They'd sent enforcers. Bumpy sent them back in ambulances. They tried negotiating. Bumpy told them Harlem wasn't for sale. They'd tried bribing politicians. Bumpy had better connections. By 1958, the families were desperate, and desperate men make dangerous decisions. Frank Costello, the most powerful mob boss in New York, called a meeting. All 5 families sent representatives. The topic: the Bumpy Johnson problem. "We've tried force. We've tried money. We've tried politics," Costello said, his voice cold and flat. "None of it works. This man is untouchable." "So what do you suggest?" asked Carlo Gambino, lighting a cigar. Costello leaned forward. "We make him touchable. We find the one person he trusts completely, and we turn them." That's when someone mentioned Big Sam. Samuel Big Sam Foster had been with Bumpy since 1953. 6'4", 260 pounds of muscle and loyalty. He'd taken bullets for Bumpy twice. He'd been there when Bumpy's mother died. He'd been at Bumpy's side through wars with Dutch Schultz's old crew, through police raids, through everything. If anyone could get close enough to kill Bumpy Johnson, it was Big Sam. August 20th, 1958. 3 weeks before the shooting, Big Sam was leaving his apartment on 32nd Street when a black Cadillac pulled up. The window rolled down. Tony Marone sat in the back seat, smiling like an insurance salesman. "Sam, right? Big Sam? I've heard a lot about you." Sam's hand moved toward his waistband, where he kept a .45. "Who's asking?" "A friend. Someone who wants to make you a very wealthy man." Tony gestured to the empty seat. 5 minutes. Hear me out. If you don't like what I say, you walk away. No hard feelings." Sam should have walked away right then, but curiosity is a dangerous thing. He got in the car. Tony didn't waste time. "You're a smart man, Sam. You know how this works. You're loyal to Bumpy, and that's admirable, but loyalty doesn't pay for your daughter's medical bills." Sam's jaw tightened. His youngest daughter, Keisha, had been sick with tuberculosis for 6 months. The treatments were expensive. The hospital bills were piling up. Sam had asked Bumpy for help, and Bumpy had given him $2,000, but it wasn't enough. It was never enough. Tony opened a briefcase. Inside were neat stacks of $100 bills. $50,000. "That's what we're offering. Enough to pay every medical bill. Enough to move your family somewhere safe, somewhere clean, where your daughter can breathe." "For what?" Sam asked, though he already knew the answer. "One bullet, one moment." You walk into Lenox Lounge. On September 12th, Bumpy will be there like he always is on Friday nights. You wait until he's distracted. One shot to the back of the head. Quick, clean. Then you disappear. We have a car waiting. New identities for your whole family. By morning you'll be in Miami. By next week you'll be someone else entirely." Sam stared at the money. $50,000. His daughter's life. His family's future. All for one trigger pull. And if I say no? Sam asked quietly. Tony's smile faded. Then your daughter dies slowly in that charity ward hospital. Then you keep working for Bumpy, watching your back every day, knowing that one day a bullet with your name on it is coming, because that's how this life ends. Sam, you know it. I know it. The only question is whether you die poor or rich. Sam got out of the car without saying a word, but the briefcase stayed with him. Tony had left it on the seat, the stacks of money visible, tempting. That night, Sam couldn't sleep. He kept seeing his daughter's face, her labored breathing, the way she tried to smile through the pain. He kept seeing that briefcase full of money, enough money to save her, enough money to give his family a real life. 3 days later, Sam made his decision. He called the number Tony had left him. I'm in, Sam said, but I want the money up front. Half now, half after. Done, Tony replied. Welcome to the winning side. What Big Sam didn't know, what Tony didn't know, was that before Sam even got into that Cadillac, Bumpy Johnson already knew about the approach. Bumpy Johnson didn't become the king of Harlem by trusting people. He became king by knowing people, by understanding that every man has a price, every man has a weakness, and every man can be bought or broken. Bumpy had eyes everywhere. Bartenders, shoeshine boys, cab drivers, janitors, people nobody noticed, people the Italian mob never thought to pay attention to. And one of those people, a parking attendant named Jerome, had seen Tony Marone's Cadillac pull up outside Sam's apartment. He'd seen Sam get in. He'd written down the license plate. 2 hours later, Jerome was in Bumpy's office above Small's Paradise Jazz Club. Tony Marone's car, Jerome said, sliding a piece of paper across the desk, parked outside Big Sam's place this morning. Sam got in, stayed for 5 minutes, got out. Bumpy looked at the paper, then at Jerome. You sure it was Marone? Positive. I've seen him before. Collects from the Italian joints on the east side. Bumpy was silent for a long moment. Then he opened his desk drawer, pulled out $500 and handed it to Jerome. You didn't see anything. You weren't there. Understand? Yes, sir, Mr. Johnson. After Jerome left, Bumpy sat in his office for 2 hours, thinking. Sam had been with him for 5 years. Good years. Loyal years. They'd been through wars together. Bumpy had trusted him with his life. But now the Italians were in Sam's ear. And if there was one thing Bumpy knew about desperate men, it was this. They made bad choices. Bumpy could have killed Sam right then. One phone call, and Sam would disappear into the East River. That's what most men in Bumpy's position would have done. Eliminate the threat. Move on. But Bumpy Johnson wasn't most men. Over the next 3 weeks, Bumpy watched Sam carefully. He saw the way Sam's hands shook sometimes. He saw the worry in Sam's eyes. He saw a man struggling with an impossible choice, loyalty or survival. And Bumpy made a decision. He wouldn't kill Sam. He'd teach him. Bumpy called in a favor from a gunsmith in Brooklyn, a man named Victor, who'd been modifying firearms for Bumpy for 15 years. I need you to do something for me, Bumpy said. I need you to make a gun that doesn't work. Victor was confused. You want a broken gun? No. I want a gun that looks perfect, feels perfect, but when you pull the trigger, nothing happens. No bullet, no firing pin strike, just a click. You want a dummy gun? A very convincing dummy gun. Can you do it? Victor could. Within 3 days he delivered a modified .38 Special that looked identical to Sam's service weapon. Same weight, same feel, but completely inoperable. The next part required precision timing. Bumpy needed to swap Sam's real gun with the dummy, without Sam noticing. That meant getting into Sam's apartment when Sam wasn't there. On September 8th, 4 days before the hit, Bumpy sent Sam on an errand across town. I need you to pick up an envelope from a contact in the Bronx. It's important. Don't come back without it. The errand would take Sam at least 3 hours. Plenty of time. While Sam was gone, Bumpy and his most trusted associate, Illinois Gordon, entered Sam's apartment. They found Sam's gun in a shoebox, under the bed, exactly where Bumpy knew it would be. They swapped it with Victor's dummy gun. Sam would never know the difference. Now Bumpy had to wait. He had to let Sam make his move. Because if Bumpy confronted Sam before the assassination attempt, Sam could deny everything. The Italians could find another traitor. The cycle would continue. No, Bumpy needed Sam to pull the trigger. He needed Sam to commit. And then, in that moment of ultimate betrayal, Bumpy would reveal the truth, not just to Sam, but to every person in that room, to all of Harlem, to the 5 families. The message would be clear. You can't kill Bumpy Johnson, because Bumpy Johnson is always 3 moves ahead. September 12, 1958, 11:47 p.m. Lenox Lounge. The club was packed that night. 300 people, musicians, hustlers, businessmen, politicians. Friday night in Harlem meant jazz, cognac, and conversations that shaped the neighborhood's future. Bumpy was at his usual corner table with 2 city councilmen, discussing a new housing development in Sugar Hill. He wore an impeccable gray suit, his trademark fedora resting on the table beside an untouched glass of Hennessy. Big Sam arrived at 11:30. He'd been drinking not enough to be drunk, but enough to steady his nerves. In his jacket pocket was the .238 Special, the gun he'd been carrying for 5 years, the gun he thought would make him $50,000 richer. Sam positioned himself near the bar, watching, waiting. Bumpy had his back turned, focused on the conversation, vulnerable. At 11:47, Sam made his move. He walked through the crowd, hand inside his jacket, gripping the pistol. Nobody noticed. Sam was always near Bumpy. He was the bodyguard. His presence was normal, expected. Sam came up behind Bumpy's chair, 6 feet away, then 4, then 2. He drew the gun. The bartender saw it first. His eyes went wide. But before he could shout a warning, Sam had already aimed at the back of Bumpy's head and pulled the trigger. The sound of a firing pin hitting nothing echoed in that suddenly silent room. The jazz band stopped mid-note. Conversations died mid-sentence. 300 people turned to look at Big Sam standing there with a useless gun in his shaking hand, and Bumpy Johnson sitting calmly, not even flinching. Bumpy took a slow sip of his cognac. Then he set the glass down gently and turned around in his chair. He looked at Sam, just looked at him. And in that look was something more terrifying than anger. It was disappointment. "I've been counting on you," Bumpy said quietly. Those 5 words hit Sam harder than any bullet, because in that moment, Sam understood. Bumpy had known. He'd known everything. The approach from Tony Marone, the $50,000, the plan, all of it. And instead of killing Sam, instead of disappearing him into the river, Bumpy had let him walk into this room and pull that trigger. Let him reveal himself to 300 witnesses. Let him destroy his own reputation, his own honor, in front of the entire community. Sam's gun clattered to the floor. His legs gave out. He sank to his knees. "I'm sorry, God." "Bumpy, I'm sorry, my daughter." "I know about your daughter," Bumpy interrupted. His voice was still quiet, but it carried through the silent room. "I've known for 6 months. You think I don't take care of my people?" Bumpy reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope. He dropped it on the table. "Kesha's medical bills. All of them. Paid in full this morning. There's also a check in there for $5,000 for your family, for whatever you need." Sam's eyes filled with tears. But why didn't you tell me?" "Because I needed to know," Bumpy said. "I needed to know if you'd choose money over loyalty, if you'd choose their $50,000 over our brotherhood." He paused. "Now I know." Bumpy stood up. He was not a tall man, 5'9", but in that moment he seemed 10 feet tall. "You're gonna leave Harlem tonight. You're gonna take your family and you're gonna disappear. I don't care where, but if I ever see your face again, if I ever hear your name again, there won't be a second chance. Do you understand?" Sam nodded, tears streaming down his face. "And Sam," Bumpy's voice dropped even lower, "when the Italians ask you what happened here tonight, you tell them exactly what you saw. You tell them Bumpy Johnson knew. You tell them he's always known. You tell them they can't buy loyalty in Harlem. And you tell them if they ever try something like this again, I won't be this merciful." Sam stood on shaking legs, picked up his useless gun, and walked out of Lenox Lounge. He would leave New York that night and never return. After Sam left, Bumpy turned to face the room. 300 people stared at him in silence. They'd just witnessed something impossible. They'd watched a man try to assassinate Bumpy Johnson, and they'd watched Bumpy turn that assassination into a lesson. "Let me make something clear," Bumpy said, his voice carrying to every corner of the room. "The Italians think they can buy us. They think they can divide us. They think they can take Harlem because we're poor, because we're black, because we don't matter." He picked up his cognac glass. "They're wrong. Harlem isn't for sale. It never was. It never will be. And anyone who thinks they can change that, anyone who thinks they can walk into my neighborhood and buy my people, they're going to learn what Big Sam just learned. We're not the ones who need protection. They are. Bumpy raised his glass. To Harlem. And to loyalty that can't be bought. 300 people raised their glasses. To Harlem. Word of that night spread through New York's underworld like wildfire. By morning, every mobster from Boston to Baltimore had heard the story. Bumpy Johnson had known about the hit for 3 weeks. He'd let it play out. He'd made a traitor reveal himself in front of 300 witnesses, and he'd done it all without spilling a drop of blood. The 5 families called an emergency meeting the next day. Frank Costello was furious. Not at Bumpy, but at Tony Marone for failing. But Carlo Gambino saw something else. "We can't beat this man," Gambino said quietly. "We've tried everything. Force didn't work. Money didn't work. Turning his own people didn't work. Every time we move against him, he's already seen it coming. So what do we do?" Costello demanded. Gambino lit a cigar. "We leave Harlem alone." It was the first time the 5 families had ever backed down from a territorial dispute without a shot being fired. But they had no choice. Bumpy Johnson had proven something that night at Lenox Lounge. He wasn't just a gangster. He was a strategist, a chess player who saw 10 moves ahead. And you don't play chess with a grandmaster unless you're ready to lose. The story of Big Sam's betrayal became legend in Harlem. People told it for decades, passed it down to their kids, their grandkids. It became more than just a story. It became a lesson about loyalty, about staying 3 steps ahead, about what real power looks like. Bumpy Johnson lived another 10 years after that night. He died in 1968, not from a bullet, but from a heart attack. But what he proved that September night of 1958 lives on. The most dangerous weapon isn't a gun. It's knowing what's coming before your enemy does. It's turning their plan into your victory. It's playing chess while they're still learning checkers. Big Sam took $50,000 from the mob. He left New York with nothing but shame. And Bumpy, he went back to his corner table, finished his cognac and kept being the king of Harlem. Because in Harlem, respect wasn't given. It was earned. And Bumpy Johnson earned his every single day.